the official National Autistic Society podcast.
I exist.
The National Autistic Society's I Exist campaign podcast. The story so far. Hello and welcome to the National Autistic Society's first I Exist campaign podcast. My name is Paul Wady, and I'm an adult living with autism who works for the National Autistic Society. This is a podcast for our campaign, which we launched this February in England and Wales and Scotland. The launch in Northern Ireland will be later this year. So far, the I Exist campaign has been successful enough for the government to acknowledge autistic adults in Britain enough to commission a prevalence study into our kind, and for the first reading of the Adults with Autism Bill in the House of Commons on the 20th of May this year to take place, with its second due this October. Details of this can be found on our website, nas.org.uk, where incidentally you can find full details of the I Exist campaign and everything to do with the NAS. The NAS was formed by parents in 1962 and is the UK's leading charity for people affected by autism, including Asperger's syndrome, of course, which I have, as does everyone else that you will hear interviewed later on about their feelings about the campaign. Today, we have over 18,098 members in over 80 branches, with more being set up all the time. Our website, nas.org.uk, will tell you more and has many useful and unique sections to it. We begin the podcast with an interview with the campaign manager, Matthew Downey. Matthew, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us something of your history with the National Autistic Society?
Yes, hi Paul, my name is Matthew Downey. I'm the campaigns manager for the NAS. I started working here in 2001. I've had a couple of jobs, but the one I'm most passionate about is the one I'm doing now, which is to achieve change for people affected by autism as a campaigns manager.
Why a campaign for adults?
Okay, well the NAS started in 1962 with a concern for children and to provide an educational provision for those who were deemed ineducable at the time, as it was seen. And that was really important, and it is a cornerstone of what the NAS does. It continues to provide education services and advice. But as we know, autism is a lifelong condition, and the reality for adults is often a lot worse in terms of support and services than it is for children. And people are likened to falling off a cliff when they reach adulthood, when they're people with autism, because there really is nothing there for them to keep them up. So we're campaigning on adults with autism because it's the most desperate need out there in terms of the issues that we would campaign on.
And why is it called I Exist?
Okay, well when we wanted to research our campaign for adults with autism, we went out and asked as many people as we could about their experiences. We asked adults themselves primarily, and we asked parents, carers and others who know and are in contact with adults with autism. We asked local authorities, health agencies, etc. And we expected to see a picture of people who receive some services but want to have things improved through housing, benefits, even things like criminal justice and employment. But actually what came back was a much more desperate and a stark picture of people who are really struggling to be recognised, and that's why the campaign is called I Exist, so that it represents people who don't feel they do exist, and also the fact that often adults with autism just exist. They really don't flourish, they don't fulfil the potential that they have, and so that's why it's got that emotive title.
And how's the campaign been successful so far?
Well, the campaign launched in spring 2008 in Westminster at the Welsh Assembly and at the Scottish Parliament. And yes, we've had some success with national decision makers, and we've had the Department of Health make quite a landmark commitment to adults with autism, saying that they will employ a full-time advisor within the department to look at the issues that affect adults. They will fund a study into the numbers of adults with autism in the UK, because no one actually knows, no one's actually studied that, and while we do know, we have a broad idea of the number of children with autism, we don't know in terms of adults. So what that means is that services that should be there aren't, because people aren't held accountable to the numbers who are out there.
Yes.
We've had some success in the Welsh Assembly as well. The Welsh Assembly Government Strategic Action Plan for people with autism is out, and it does take account of adults with autism and their needs. Yeah. So that's great. And we've made some real success aside from that as well. But while we have had success nationally and at sort of a governmental level, that really doesn't mean anything to local people and to individuals in their local areas until that translates to a difference in the support and services that are available. So really the campaign now is all about achieving that and asking local authorities and health agencies and others who are responsible for providing health and social care services to really take account of adults with autism.
Great, and what do you want people to do to support the campaign?
Right, well, at the moment, what we're really asking, particularly local authorities to do, is to take a local lead and appoint someone in their local authority with responsibility for autism, because until that happens, autism will be lost in other departments, and particularly will be shunted either into mental health services or learning disability services. And as we know, autism is not a mental health condition or a learning disability, although those two things do affect people with autism. And so it's really important that local authorities take that strategic lead, but also that they take real action to ensure that people who fall through those gaps in services are captured, and that we don't have this situation any longer where people don't access even quite simple services and go on to develop further needs for a lack of services. We know that the majority of people, adults with autism, have developed further difficulties for a lack of services. Yes. And a really stark statistic is that over a third of adults with autism in the UK have developed severe mental health difficulties, specifically because they haven't accessed some of the most simple and easy to provide services. Yes. So what we want people to do is to log on to our website, to contact us, and to take local action to ensure that the local services that should be there for people with autism are there.
Great, Master Tony, thank you very much. I interviewed a number of people living with autism, Claire, James, Robin and Steve, about the kinds of issues that the campaign addresses.